So they're staring at you again, not with admiration, not with respect, something else entirely, something that makes their hands shake when they try to explain you. They're looking at you like you're a crack in their reality, like you're the one thing in their perfectly ordered world that refuses to make sense. And you know what they're calling you now? A glitch, an error, a bug in the system that should have been deleted long ago. Let me ask you something real quick. When did you last do something everyone said would never happen? When did the math stack up so violently against you that even considering it felt like an insult to logic itself? When did you look at chances so microscopic they might as well be zero and decide that was good enough? That's exactly what you did. You took their percentages, their calculations, their meticulously researched reasons why you'd fail, and you burned them all down. You didn't just overcome the statistics, you destroyed them so thoroughly they're still finding pieces. They've stopped calling it luck. You notice that. Luck they understand. Luck fits in their boxes. Luck is random chance that eventually runs out. But what you're doing, what you continue to pull off, that's not luck. That's something they have no framework for. That's why they're accusing you of breaking the code, of exploiting loopholes in reality, of possessing abilities that shouldn't exist in their version of the world. Because to them, the only way you could be standing here is if you somehow hacked existence itself. And honestly, maybe they're onto something. You understand what 0.01% actually means? It means you had no business surviving. It means reality itself placed bets against you. It means every logical person, every qualified expert, every rational mind should have pulled you aside and told you to stop wasting time. And they tried, didn't they? They formed a line with their spreadsheets and their experience and their barely disguised pity to demonstrate precisely why you were doomed. They presented the evidence, the historical patterns, the undeniable facts. They made it abundantly clear that people in your position simply don't succeed. Yet here you stand, in the wreckage of their forecasts, wearing their disbelief like a trophy. Here you are pulling off the statistically absurd on an idle Wednesday like it's routine. Here you are making the unachievable look so simple they're convinced you must have access to cheat codes. Because the alternative, the possibility that genuinely terrifies them, is that you're simply operating at a level they didn't know existed, that you've tapped into something they'll never reach, no matter how many times they attempt it. Let's examine what 0.00001% truly represents. It represents being the single success in a million failures. It represents 999,999 alternate versions of you collapsing in different timelines while you're the one who broke through. It represents threading a microscopic opening while chaos explodes around you. It represents accomplishing what the universe labeled expendable, what mathematics deemed unlikely, what destiny scheduled for elimination. They're analyzing you now like you're a problem that won't solve. They're deconstructing your decisions, hunting for the exploit, the hidden mechanism, the forbidden knowledge that explains your victory. They're questioning everyone in your orbit, searching for the exact moment you transcended normal limitations, the instant you discovered the secret, the transformation that changed the trajectory. And they're finding absolutely nothing, because there was no secret, no hidden advantage, no external intervention. There was only you refusing to let numbers write your ending, you refusing to accept that probability had any authority over your outcome. Want to know the real reason they're calling you a glitch? Not because they believe in system errors, but because they need system errors to exist so you make sense to them. They need there to be some bug, some flaw, some unintended feature that accounts for your results. Because if there isn't, if you genuinely accomplish this through nothing except determination and an irrational rejection of statistical reality, then what excuse do they have? What justification exists for them settling for mediocrity? What reason do they have for treating probabilities like laws? The accusation that you're a glitch is pure self-preservation. It's how they shield their egos from the devastating truth that they could have achieved it too if they'd been willing to gamble everything on a fraction of a chance. It's how they maintain peace, knowing you're out there shattering probability while they're still debating whether attempting is worthwhile. It's how they preserve their comfortable narrative where achievement comes from fortune or conditions or system failures. Anything except the horrifying reality that it might simply demand becoming someone impossibility can't touch. But let's dig deeper into this accusation, because when they label you a glitch, what they're truly acknowledging is that you've accessed capabilities beyond their comprehension. They're admitting you've connected with something outside their perception, outside their regulations, outside their understanding of how things work. And they're completely correct, not because you exploited a bug, but because you became the bug. You became the thing their system can't process. You became the error message in their matrix, the exception that exposes how fragile their rules actually are. You remember the beginning, right? When they first laid out the odds, when someone presented you with data and projections and historical evidence showing exactly why you'd never make it. You remember their expressions when you announced you'd pursue it anyway. That blend of sympathy and superiority and something deeper, terror. They were frightened even then, frightened of what your success would represent, because your victory wouldn't just be your achievement, it would be their indictment. And now that indictment has been delivered. Now you're occupying the summit they swore was fictional, experiencing what they claimed you'd never experience. Observing the masses below desperately trying to rationalize you away. And the most amusing part? You're not finished. You're not content with defying one impossible probability. You're eyeing the next statistical anomaly like it's a personal invitation from existence itself. You're collecting 0.001% scenarios like they're achievements to unlock. They're calling you a glitch because you make others believe. That's the actual transgression, isn't it? Not simply that you succeeded. It's that your success spreads dangerous thoughts to other minds. It makes them question whether odds matter as much as authorities insist. It makes them wonder if statistical probability is fate or merely a guideline for the hesitant. You're not just violating the rules. You're revealing to others how fragile the rules really are. You're a contagion in their ecosystem of controlled averageness. Here's what's actually occurring. Every time you accomplish another impossible task, you're not just building your legend. You're fracturing the foundation of the framework that instructs people to accept their position, to honor their boundaries, to respect conventional wisdom. You're demonstrating that wisdom is negotiable, that boundaries are largely mental constructs, and that positions are for people who never realized they had wings. And that makes you more threatening than any actual system error could be. Because a glitch with exploits is frightening but ultimately constrained by the architecture. But you're functioning beyond architecture. You're rewriting probability just by refusing to acknowledge its authority. You're warping the universe through your will, not through exploits, but through the gravitational pull of your refusal to surrender. You're not following some hidden manual. You're creating a new one with every impossible thing you complete. And they can't decode that, can't duplicate that, can't comprehend that. The statistics said 0.01%. You interpreted that as still possible. The statistics said impossible. You heard improbable. The statistics said quit now. You heard begin immediately. And that shift, that microscopic reframing, that's what they're labeling a system exploit. Because to them, respecting statistics is rationality, and dismissing them is insanity. But you've uncovered the secret that terrifies them. Rationality is just another term for surrendering before you launch. You know what's magnificent about being accused of being a glitch? It means you've surpassed their ability to categorize you through conventional frameworks. It means you've departed the domain of the explainable and entered the domain of mythology. It means your existence itself has transformed into a narrative people share. A warning for some, fuel for others, but always a story that resists simple interpretation. You're no longer just a person in their perception. You're a phenomenon demanding explanation. And they'll keep attempting to explain you. They'll produce analyses dissecting your approach. They'll film documentaries examining your path. They'll interview everyone from your past, hunting for the critical factor, the unfair advantage, the reality loophole you discovered, and they'll never locate it because it doesn't exist. There's only you and your absolute refusal to let mathematics dictate your destiny. There's only you and your audacity to interpret impossible odds as a challenge rather than a restriction. Let's discuss the moment it occurred. The moment you achieved what they insisted you wouldn't. You remember the quiet? Not the applause, not the euphoria, but the silence that preceded everything. The moment when reality had to restructure itself to include you. The moment when the universe had to revise its probability calculations. The moment when every observer had to reconsider what they believed achievable. That silence. That's their worldview fragmenting. And in that silence, in that gap before comprehension could catch up, you experienced it. Not satisfaction, not relief, but something different. Knowing. The knowing that you'd always understood you'd succeed, that the odds were never absolute, that their statistics were just narratives they constructed to maintain control. You'd always known, somewhere in your core, that you were the aberration. That's why their accusations don't touch you. You can't take offense at someone calling you a glitch when you understand you're something far stranger. Because here's the reality they'll never grasp. You didn't defeat the odds through system exploits. You defeated them by being the exploit yourself. Not in the technical sense, but in the sense that you operate outside their natural parameters. You're functioning on wavelengths they can't measure, following principles they never studied, engaged in a game they don't realize exists. While they're calculating probabilities, you're generating new possibilities. While they're honoring limitations, you're dissolving them. The glitch accusation is almost endearing in its naivety, because it assumes you utilize some external bug, some borrowed advantage, some negotiation with forces beyond comprehension. But the reality is far more unsettling to them. The reality is the power existed within you all along, dormant. The reality is you didn't require assistance from the cosmos because you learned to embody cosmic force yourself. The reality is you didn't exploit the system, you simply recognized the system was voluntary. They desperately want to believe you had help because the alternative is unbearable. The alternative is that a human being, flesh and thought and mortality just like them, simply concluded that statistical probability was meaningless and then operated accordingly. The alternative is that the sole distinction between you and them is you refuse to submit to numbers. And if that's accurate, if success against impossible odds reduces to nothing more than refusing to accept impossibility, then what does that reveal about everyone who abandoned their pursuit when odds became unfavorable? So absolutely, let them call you a glitch. Let them theorize about exploits and system failures. Let them construct elaborate hypotheses about your unfair advantages. Because while they're occupied explaining away your achievement with fiction, you're already pursuing the next impossible target. While they're arguing whether you broke reality, you're reshaping reality again. While they're attempting to comprehend yesterday, you're constructing tomorrows that violate every prediction. You've become the terror of the average, the nightmare of the sensible, the cautionary tale that people who worship limitations share as warning. Don't become like them, they caution. Don't pursue impossible visions. Don't dismiss the experts. Don't believe you're exceptional enough to overcome the odds. And somewhere, some person hears that warning and thinks, but what if I am? And in that instant, you've infected another consciousness with the most dangerous concept in existence. Maybe the odds are irrelevant. That's your true violation. Not that you succeeded, but that you made success against impossible odds appear attainable. Not that you're extraordinary, but that you make extraordinary seem like a decision instead of an inheritance. Not that you ignored probability, but that you proved probability is just a recommendation for people who haven't chosen to become unstoppable yet. You're not a glitch. You're something more dangerous. You're evidence that the system breaks for anyone reckless enough to test it, and they can't forgive that. They can't forgive you for revealing that the invisible prison they inhabit has no walls, that the limitations they honor are self-created, that the odds that defeated them were just numbers waiting for someone to disregard them. They can't forgive you for thriving where they collapsed. Not because you're superior, but because you simply rejected failure as an option when failure was the only reasonable option. The 0.00001% wasn't an obstacle to you. It was a challenge. It was reality declaring, I guarantee you can't achieve this. And you responding, watch me prove you wrong. It was the universe deploying its most discouraging statistics, and you catching them like they were nothing. It was mathematics itself attempting to halt you and you passing through formulas like they were illusions. And now you're the formula that doesn't compute, the data that shatters the pattern, the outcome that disproves the hypothesis. They'll examine your methods for decades, trying to engineer a repeatable process for conquering impossible odds. They'll question you, scrutinize you, document you, and they'll completely miss the essence because the essence can't be transferred. The essence is that you became someone for whom odds were meaningless. The essence is that you cultivated such unwavering certainty in your ultimate success that probability warped around you. The essence is that you didn't battle the odds. You simply existed so completely that the odds had to acknowledge you. That's what a system exploit appears like to people who worship probability. It appears like someone passing through barriers they consider solid. It appears like someone surviving when their certain destruction is guaranteed. It appears like someone capturing lightning when they know electricity can't be contained. It appears like you accomplishing the impossible so naturally that it seems you never registered it was supposed to be impossible initially. And perhaps you didn't. Perhaps that's the authentic secret they're searching for. Perhaps you succeeded at 0.00001% odds because you never truly internalized what those odds signified. Perhaps while everyone else calculated failure rates, you only calculated steps towards success. Perhaps while they honored probability, you ignored everything except the objective. Perhaps you're not a glitch at all, just someone who never learned to be intimidated by numbers. But here's what's unfolding now in the wake of your impossible achievement. Here's what they're concealing from you, though you sense it regardless. You've altered the odds for everyone following your path. By succeeding where you shouldn't have, you've established a new reference point. By accomplishing the impossible, you've made it precedented. By embodying the 0.1%, you've confirmed that percentage is real, is reachable, that someone can occupy that space. And that's why the glitch accusation will haunt you perpetually. Because you didn't just win, you transformed the game. You didn't just overcome the odds. You demonstrated the odds are conquerable. You didn't just achieve the impossible. You rendered the impossible accessible. And there's no greater offense in the perspective of those who worship limitations than making limitations appear optional. There's no greater blasphemy than proving the doctrine of probability can be revised. So embrace the accusation like armor. When they call you a glitch, grin and question what exploit they believe you discovered. When they demand your secret, inform them it's simpler than they imagine and more impossible than they can comprehend. When they insist there must be some trick, some advantage, some supernatural element, just smile and let them continue searching. Because the truth, the absolute truth, is you're hiding nothing. You're just living evidence that human beings are stranger and more formidable than the systems created to measure them. You understand what 0.00001% truly signifies now? It signifies you're one in a million. It signifies you're the exception that proves every rule has conditions. It signifies you're the glitch that reveals the code. It signifies you're the data that crashes the model. It signifies you're the case that invalidates the theory. It signifies you're the results that demand revised publications. It signifies you're the anomaly that establishes the new baseline for anyone courageous enough to follow. They're accusing you of being a glitch because they need you to be impossible to replicate. They need your success to be unrepeatable, untransferable, secured behind supernatural barriers that ordinary people can't penetrate. Because if it's not, if you genuinely accomplish this through nothing except refusing to honor mathematical probability, then their entire structure for understanding achievement disintegrates. Then every person who quoted odds at them and convinced them to quit was just another person who accepted limitations as inevitable. But you accepted nothing. You transformed their 0.00001% into 100% through pure force of determination and labor and absolute rejection of any alternative outcome. You transformed their mathematical certainty of your failure into irrelevance through the elementary act of succeeding regardless. You transformed their statistics into archives, their forecasts into jokes, their certainty into chaos. And now you're here, standing in the debris of their probability frameworks, surrounded by the demolished fragments of their statistical predictions, wearing your impossible success like armor forged from expert disbelief. And they're calling you a glitch because they possess no other vocabulary for what you represent. They're grasping for the supernatural because the natural principles they trusted couldn't produce you. They're invoking exploits because science failed to prevent you.